Greetings and welcome back to Fun with Dashcams. This is the 6th installment in the series, and today we're going to be looking at what I consider one of the more unique and interesting form factors of dashcams and DVRs, the rearview mirror DVR or dashcam. As I've already stated, I consider a DVR anything that has more than one camera. Otherwise, it's just a dashcam. But you notice here, we're not mounting it to the dash, we're not mounting it to the windscreen. It's actually going to wrap around our rearview mirror and use that placement to give it a very nice field of view, a very nice perspective on the road. And we'll cover the ins and outs of that as we go along. So the model that I am reviewing is very unique for a couple of reasons. It's very atypical of these rearview mirror replacement type DVRs. The AV200 Bravo, as I said, is what I have, but it's not what I recommend, and you're going to see what I mean when we cover the practical on it. We're going to cover some of the features. I will focus on some particular features of my unit, but also we will cover some features in general about these things. We're going to cover the good, the bad, and the not so ugly. So I have here a few examples I pulled off the internet, and in particular, as you can see, has pictures, nice blow-ups to really show you some things about the rearview DVRs. So first you can see that this right here gives you a pretty good idea of what the prototypical rearview DVR looks like. It pretty much looks like a replacement. Now the button placement, this is more of a stealth model. The buttons are placed at the bottom. They may also be placed, let me see if I can get another picture. Sometimes they'll be placed on a little panel right here in the front. But the thing you must consider is that this is in fact a rearview mirror replacement. You know, your rearview mirror is typically maybe about that big. This will extend it out to about 11, even 12 inches. So I mean, this thing is not small. And depending on how it connects to your existing rearview mirror and its weight and the strength of your rearview mirror's ball joint mount, may play a factor in your decision if you want to use one of these or not, plus certain legal considerations. We'll just go ahead and cover that now. Let's say you're in an area where you are not allowed to, or you'll get a ticket, I should say, for mounting a something to your windscreen. And there are many states, many places in the United States, municipalities or states even, that don't allow you to affix anything like a suction mount GPS or a mount for a phone or anything like that to the windscreen. And perhaps it's very impractical for you to try to rig up some other kind of mount that's inside the car. You've already seen examples in previous videos about the more you recess the camera into the car, the more susceptible it is to the contrast between outside and interior and exterior lighting conditions. So it really plays havoc with the camera and washes the image out. So we really don't want to do that. We still want this thing near the front windscreen. We're still trying to capture that view from the front. That's our primary concern, since that's, again, where most of the action, most of the accidents will happen, unless you've been rear-ended. But then again, rear-end accidents aren't near as prevalent as T-bones being hit from the side, hit from in the front left fender, front right fender. So like I said, most of your action is in the front. And that's what these things consider. They capitalize on the placement of the rearview mirror being up high and in the center of the front windscreen, which is really where we want to mount the dash cam to get the best view. So by taking advantage of this and by not having to mount anything permanently to the windscreen and also not mounting anything to the dash, you also gain an advantage of a little bit of stealth. Depending upon the model you have. If you have something that just looks like an innocuous windscreen and it has this little tiny camera pointed out to the side, as you can see, this is a pretty slim form factor of this type of chassis. It's not going to be not going to gain a whole lot of weight, and it's going to be very innocuous. It's just going to look like a large mirror. In fact, it'll just look like a mirror to anybody who's not familiar with your particular car. So that's really nice. Plus, you gain the advantage of a much larger viewing area in your rearview mirror, especially when you look behind. Some mirrors get really small. I remember in one of my cars, my old Honda, it was literally only about that big. It was a pain in the butt. I ended up putting an aftermarket mirror, larger mirror on there, safety mirror, just so I could see outside, just so I could look up and actually see through the back window because it was that small. So this gives you that added advantage, especially if you're using one anyways, like truckers or people who spend a lot of time driving, courier operators. Go ahead and capitalize that. Go ahead and get your larger mirror and get the advantage of being able to place a lens on there so you can then record anything that's going on the road. We're going to discuss the different mounting options, and this is where we're going to go into that. There are three main ways in which the DVRs will attach. It's either via a spring-loaded tension arm. It's either some type of a band. Usually it looks like a rubber band, but it looks like a chain link. But a rubber band would also do, or Velcro straps. So this particular model uses the little rubberized bands. And you know, as you can see, we have pretty much 5 or 6 buttons, very typical. Our power, left, right, or up, down, mode, and the selector. Sometimes we have a 6th button for panic or something like that. But pretty much this is a very prototypical camera. This is a single camera unit. So it would be, I would consider it an actual dash cam, even though it doesn't mount to the dash or the windscreen. We got this big honking set of LEDs right here and this big silvery thing, which we could just black out with a Sharpie or something and make that very, very unnoticeable. This particular example is similar, has these similar stealth buttons, different from what you saw. But it actually comes with a backup camera. Now we're talking about a DVR. So now you see the advantage of us that we have a screen in the front, a camera in the front. Now we have a camera in the back, or to be placed wherever. You know, it's your choice. Here's another example, better, showing those kind of bands we have. Basically, this thing has little tabs that hang off the back or the side, and these will then wrap around it and on your rearview mirror, wrap around the back and affix it very firmly to the mirror. And that's one of the problems you will have with these things. If you don't have them secured properly, they're going to slide around. And the more they slide around, the more they're going to bang your mirror around, the more you're going to kick, it's going to knock it out of alignment. So you want it nice and snug and secure. I wanted to show this example and compare it to this. So this sample shows a lens placement on the left. This would be more typical of U.S. drivers or North American drivers, or anywhere where you drive on the left-hand side, from the left-hand side of the vehicle. If you're driving a car that uses a right-hand steering wheel, on the right-hand side, what we normally in the States would consider the passenger area, you would want one that that's located on the left side of the back of the DVR. And it's because of the placement. So if this is your windscreen, and typically people are going to twist it one way or the other to get the best possible view out the back window or out the back wherever, because it's a rear view mirror, you want it closer to where that corner is, the corner that's going to be facing the windscreen. Because if, let's say you got one of these type and you're in North America, and yes, the lens is like this, but then you're going to have to crank, and the lens is turned, you're going to have to crank that lens, and it's going to end up recording part of the rear view mirror armature or mount where it attaches to the windscreen. So you're going to block out all this part of your view, you know, and that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of having that camera. So if you're again on the right side of the vehicle, driving from the right side, and that camera's located there, you actually have a nice view unobstructed from the armature or anything else. So that's why it's important in North America that you want to make sure that that camera is located on this side, the corner that's going to be closest to the windscreen when you finally adjust that mirror. And of course, like I said, these are the kind of tabs that those little rubber bands use. You didn't have, you'll see the armature, the spring-loaded armatures, like what I have on mine. Now, this one I wanted to show again. This is an example of what the Velcro straps would be like. It actually has some anti-scratch rubberized strips underneath these, and then these would just come undone, and they would wrap around and properly secure. The mirror would be about right here, and with the camera poking off the side. So it's not like you're going to mount this center. You're actually going to mount this adjusted to the left or to the right, so that that camera has clearance from the mirror so it can record. So we're going to have a practical example of that. This is one that I bought from ePrance, and this is what it came in. And as you can already see, it looks quite a bit different from just that quick pan shot of the prototypical rearview mirror DVR. And that is because this particular unit actually has not one, not two cameras like you saw in that second example, but actually 3 cameras. See, it's got a forward-facing camera, a rear-facing camera, and it comes with a third external camera. So go ahead and just show you a little bit more of what it comes with. Of course, a rear view camera for the back window or wherever. Comes with standard USB, and this model actually does support USB data, so it shows up as a mass storage device. Of course, has a download cable for mini USB to regular USB. Why you would want to pull this thing out of your car to download, I don't understand. We'll cover that. Comes with a standard AV cable. I thought this was kind of interesting. It not only has standard composite out, it also has an HDMI port. So those are the accessories to it, and the also a very rare feature on these is a GPS. This is an actual pretty heavy little GPS antenna. It's not a lightweight one like some of the ones you saw in the 3000, 6000 R610 videos, R310 videos. And as you can see immediately, you saw that nice slim form factor of that first and second example. This thing is not slim. This is pretty honkin' big. And this is that third mount option we were talking about. So as you can see right here, this is going to hook to the bottom of the rearview mirror. These will then hook around to the top, and the tension of the springs with these rubberized pads is what's going to grip it, and that's why I call it gripping arms, grip it to the rearview mirror. Looking at the top here, we see our primary ports. There really isn't any other kind of access port on here, so everything is located at the top, which means that all your cables are going to come from the top, and they can then be cable managed, wrapped around the mirror, or run up into the headliner and through the soffits and everything to go where you need to go. Oh, and I must mention that this power cable was pretty darn long. This is about a 15-foot power cable, so it gives you plenty of length in order to route it around your car as necessary. And that's pretty typical, I've seen. So first off, we actually have an HDMI as well as a composite out option. It's usually one or the other. This one has both, which I thought was real interesting. Of course, it has data and power. This is the AV in for the rear camera, and like we had discussed previously for the S3000 and other types, it uses a two-banded 2.5 mil, looks like a stereo jack, but it is in fact a camera. That should look very familiar to you. It's a very rigid mount. You can either screw it in, or you have the 3M or double-sided tapes to stick it wherever you need to. I thought was interesting is this actually uses a full-size SD card. Many of these use a micro SD card. This one uses a full-size SD. So I don't know, if you have some SDs laying around, this might be an option. And that's pretty much it. Now looking at trying not to get a glare on here, it has a little toggle joystick very similar to the X6000, if you recall. And it's actually pretty nice. It doesn't overextend. It's not like the X6000, the really cheapy little joystick, basically, that stuck and actually would click twice, so you had to be real careful with it. Has a panic button, so auto record, hit that, automatically records the current segment and locks it, just like the G sensor would, and regular power. This is one thing that I wanted you to notice is here is the power button, the power LED, and the charge LED. It'll charge until it's full, the battery's full, at which point this charge LED will turn off. But the power LED functions both as a power and record. So if it's power, it'll be steady. If it's in some kind of a recording mode, it will blink at you. And as you can see from the placement of that, at nighttime this is very bright and it can get kind of annoying. It has 4 IR LEDs for the inside camera, no IR LEDs for the front camera, so they thought this through. They placed them properly, so that's very nice. So what the video selector actually allows you to do is it allows you for it to either function as a true dash cam, a taxi cam, or a two-camera DVR type. So you really see this is I got it more for the gizmo factor, the wow factor, because it had a lot of interesting features on it. And so I was really curious to find out. It cost me about $108 when I purchased it, and they're probably about the same price now. But as I said, 720, standard definition, standard definition. I did want to cover also something I thought was kind of interesting. You'll find this very familiar from the S3000. See if I can get that in there. It fires up and it's immediately going to go into 3 modes. USB disc, PC camera like a webcam, or a regular record mode. So we want to go in record mode to then show you that this is in fact a camera. Now that's me recording down, and by toggling to the left it gives us the second channel. Let me put it in a taxi cam, and here's it's going to switch modes here in a second, and it just did. Notice it records and then it'll stop recording. So when you flip that switch while it's recording, it'll immediately stop. And now we're actually using the camera on the right. You have a little bit of adjustment to the left or the right. It rotates about 50 to 60 degrees, and it can rotate on all axes. It's a ball joint. Same difference with this camera. It can rotate. So after you've placed it on your mirror and placed your mirror, then you can adjust the lenses across all 3 axes to get the best view possible. And of course, like I showed you in the S3000, you can switch channels. It does support picture-in-picture. Supports all the features that you're used to seeing. The interface, you'll notice, is a bit different, but it does support, like you'll see in a lot of these, supports a picture mode, in other words, camera mode, and playback mode. This, I think, was intended because whoever was going to use this was going to be flipping through the different video channels quite often. That's what I think. That's why they designed it this way, because otherwise buttons would suffice. This is a little cumbersome at times, but it makes it a lot easier to make quick adjustments on the fly. So, and your selector actually is the button in the middle when you select. So there's recording, there it's not. Going through the UI real quick, basically he's telling you we've got 720p. Our audio, the speaker is muted, the camera is active, and this is a weird little, it's a little triangle looking thing. It's kind of a chevron in a circle. That's your GPS. And I thought this was funny is we have LEDs are on auto and they're turned off. I don't know what this, it's never meant anything. It says FL with a line through it, so I don't know what that means. And it of course means that our SD card is installed and that our battery's charging. Date timestamp and current recorded video time. So we're currently 43 seconds into this video. I'm just going to go and stop that. So we can now add our third camera, and we can now go to that third selector and now you see what this camera is looking at. So see there, so now you've seen we have 1, 2, 3 cameras. So that's pretty unique. Plus the fact that it has GPS in this very strange BNC type connector, very small one. It takes about 2 minutes to fire up, I've noticed. We'll cover that in the registrar viewer video, and we'll cover a very interesting thing I found out about it. So moving on. When we're talking about the dash cams, like we had mentioned, you need to consider, how you're going to mount it to the mirror. So it attaches to, and it's basically a replacement for, as you saw, the typical samples. Mine is unique because what would otherwise be a full mirror is actually now part control pad and another camera. So you really don't gain anything. This mirror is pretty much a normal size. In fact, it's a slightly smaller mirror than a standard automotive mirror, especially in a larger vehicle. So you don't really gain much from that. But like you saw with most of them, it's a mirror, a very large mirror surface all the way through. So that's one of the features of these that it gives you compared to just a regular dash cam. and you're running all the cables anyway, so this gives you a physical advantage. The 3 mounting types, spring-loaded grips, just like we saw here. You have bands, the little rubberized bands, and Velcro straps. I actually think if I were to go with this, I'd go with the Velcro straps, because it seems like it would be just an easier way, a lot quicker, and probably a lot easier to get this thing cinched, especially with odd-shaped mirrors, because some mirrors are real fat on the back end, and this would allow it to wrap around a lot better. Of course, it has all the basic features we come to expect in a DVR dash cam: record on power, auto power off. This actually has 2 different features. It's like an auto power off and a power shut off, so it's kind of strange. Of course, this unit has a battery, yada yada yada. This thing was unique in that it records in MPEG-4 videos. I don't know how many other cameras do that, but this is the first one that I actually purchased that actually records in a .mp4. So it's native H.264 and uses the open standard MP4 container, and it also records GPS. The GPS and the G-sensor data are encoded in the front view camera files. I've tested a couple different ways, and I've come to that conclusion that there is no GPS log, so I thought that was interesting. And we'll cover that in the registrar viewer example. Very simple. In fact, it's like the Garmin, if you remember that. No log file, just video files, and yet the data is there. So you have a selection with this particular model of either 1 or 2 cameras, and it's your decision. That second camera, is it the inside camera or is it the back windscreen camera? This thing, in a lot of these, this is pretty generic, is motion or parking modes and G-sensor. A lot of these other cameras, especially the single lens ones, do have these features. I've noticed in some of them it may not have a motion sensor mode, but I think it would be advantageous to have it, just because that's a typical, in this price range, $80 and up, it's pretty typical to have that feature. It has, and one thing that's nice, especially that you might have noticed, is it has a built-in screen. Just like we have the auto off, and you should be able to see it through there. Once it powers off, it's just the mirror surface. So this functions as a two-way mirror. It's a anti-glare Mylar coating that hides the screen behind it. So you can use this to view and play back, and once you don't need it, turns off. It's actually probably the most versatile, the easiest to use form factor for reviewing video, as opposed to a camera that's mounted in a very particular place and you would have to remove it in order to play back video. And that's what I thought was nice. So it's good and bad. The good part is it turns off and it's just the mirror surface. The bad part is if you have it running, it can be a real distraction, especially at night. So these are the pros I could think of for this particular form factor, and this, not necessarily this camera, this one, but others. It's the cleanest and easiest to mount. You know, of course, you're going to have wires. Every one of these has a wire. Got to get power at least. But it seems to be the easiest shoot for the middle kind of option, and I think it's kind of popular with especially people with the larger vehicles, or would be, simply because you just wrap it around your rearview mirror. You know, you're going to route the cable anyways. You don't have to fix anything. You're not going to have something hanging off your front windscreen. So in that respect, that's what I mean by the cleanest. It's already utilizing a mounting surface that's already exists. You're not having to introduce a mount. And it's not going to be on your windscreen to obstruct. It's not going to be on your dash to get knocked around or stolen. And because it's part of the mirror, most people are going to think it's just a mirror, you know. So that's that probably is goes into a little bit of an anti-theft philosophy. Most of these give you a much larger replacement rearview mirror. So it's very nice. It gives you, with some of these, especially you saw like with this example, you know, it gives you a Taxicam capability or 2-lens DVR for this particular, but it still gives you, with the 2 camera models, you're at 360 degrees, what's going on in front, what's going on behind. This particular model has a 3-inch screen, and as I said, it's hidden behind a 2-way mirror, so once it shuts off, you don't really pay attention to it. The mirror is now in effect. The overall optics in this thing had fairly good daytime recording. It was similar to the S3000, so it's within that price range, and it's within that quality, you know, that $80 to $100 bracket for a dual camera system. It's kind of interesting that this has the GPS. Nighttime was average. It was basically on par with the S3000, and about the same as the F90G, Way better than the really cheap example I gave, the Raptor, but still falls within line. You know, the less light you have, the less you have to work with. So I can't really expect much during pure dark nighttime conditions unless I have good illumination in front of me. It's got HD on the front, and we'll cover that in the actual video example following this in 6 Bravo. Multiple cameras are in particular. Our first one is a 720. It is true 720, not interpolated. And our two other cameras, we have a 120 degree angle on the first camera, 120 degree angle on the interior, the taxi cam, for the taxi cam mode for interior shots. It records at the 720 by 480. And the rear camera is a standard, you know, OEM camera like I covered before. 90 degrees in that lens, and it is encoding in 720 by 480. So that's the good. What's the bad? This is a common complaint for a lot of people, is that the larger mirror is going to obstruct your sun visors. So if your sun visors flip down, and some people like to push it all the way to the window, this is not going to let you. Remember, here's your mirror. So this thing's hanging off, you know, however much, basically as an extension to one side or the other of your regular mirror. So most sun visors are made to fit around the mirror. So if this thing's hanging out 2 or 3 inches, you know, one side or the other, someone's not going to be able to use their sun visor unless you are diligent and don't push all down. Because if somebody's not paying attention and is not mindful, you push the thing down, it's going to snag the mirror and knock your camera all out of alignment. Front camera only adjusts so far. Remember, you're mounting it to the mirror, so you're dependent upon the placement of that mirror. Because these things do have a little bit of weight to them, you need to have a stiff mirror mount, that ball socket that your mirror attaches to, so you can get all the wonderful range to adjust it just so you like. You're relying on that, so it needs to be pretty stiff to handle the added weight of the mirror. If not, the weight of the mirror will actually cause the rearview mirror, as you know, you're hitting bumps and jostling around, it'll cause it to start to tip down and to migrate towards the bottom, and therefore again losing the alignment on your camera and just being an annoyance, and you're going to constantly be readjusting. Also make sure, like I said before, make sure you get an appropriately placed one. North America, you want it on this side. If you drive from the right hand side of the vehicle, the steering wheel is on the right hand side, you want the lens on that side. The thing I didn't that originally caught me about this is because I thought it was in fact 3 cameras that would record. Oh, and avoid adjusting the mirror. That's another thing. Is once you set it, again, it's a Ron Popeil. You can't readjust the mirror. A lot of people like to fiddle with their mirrors, getting the best view and everything. You're going to have to go to pains to not adjust the mirror a lot. You need to pretty much have it set for you or the other driver. You don't want to be moving around a lot, otherwise you're going to constantly go back to basically an install step, constantly readjusting the lenses. This particular thing, like I said, 3 cameras, but only 2 can record at a time. You know, and that's good or bad. You know, do I probably need the 3rd camera? Probably not. You know, most of these come in a configuration of a front forward camera and a back rear facing camera through the back windscreen. You know, a taxi cam option, if I need a taxi cam, I should just get a taxi cam. Or I need to get a multi-camera DVR, a proper DVR setup. If you're trying to go cheap on something like this for safety for a fleet vehicle, you need to just stop looking at this option. Unless you really absolutely need to. Size is lost for the sake of the interior camera. You know, for this thing, it's bulky. It's actually probably a little bit wider than most of them because they needed the extra real estate on here. So I lost a large part of my reflective surface. I've lost the advantage of really having that extended mirror. So I don't like that. And just the fact of having the joystick there, it gets annoying. The fact of having that light there. And that's why I say here, the record LED and the LCD. This one does have a tendency from time to time. The G-sensor, even though it's disabled, will trip it and it will cause the screen to light up. And at night that can get extremely annoying. It's very distracting. And that's why I say here is that this goes with that. So what's the not so ugly? Well, for $80 to $100, I have a 2-lens DVR, and with this one I actually have the option of having a taxi cam configuration, or I have a proper DVR just by simply flipping a switch. So it's not like I'm hamstrung to one or the other. I can do both, you know. It's, you know, it gives you more versatility. So that's, you know, it's a give and take. I have true front and back video record, whether it is a taxi cam or it is through the front windscreen and back windscreen. So it mounts as a mirror, and I think that, you know, if you go through the more traditional type, you know, just forego this and just get a regular one that has a mirror, maybe has the control buttons right here, but typically they're stealth and they're lined on the bottom. You're going to end up with a nice, easy to mount mirror, easy to mount dash cam. That's going to be more discreet, you know, barring of course the shiny chrome seal, black that out, and you'll end up with, I think, probably the most discreet type of dash cam. You don't have anything hanging off your front windscreen or on your dash, and if you're mindful of the placement and everything, and mindful not to mess around with it too much, I think you'll have a very good solid option here. And in particular, like, because it gives you a no glare mirror. I hope you found this enlightening. In the second video, 6 Alpha, we're going to cover Registrar Viewer and what I discovered about this.